From a snobby hotel owner to a cunning historical scoundrel to a wheeling-dealing plonker, British comedy has created some of the greatest and funniest characters of all time. Sometimes we root for them, sometimes we care about them, but they always make us laugh. Before we count them down, here are 10 interesting facts. Okay, number 1. Basil and Sybil Fawlty were based on Donald and Beatrice Sinclair, genuine hoteliers who ran the 41-bed Glen Eagles Hotel in Torquay, where John Cleese stayed while filming Monty Python in 1970.
Everything's bottoms, isn't it?
The original proposed name for Mr. Bean was Mr. White. Names of vegetables were next, including Mr. Cauliflower, ending with the choice of Mr. Bean.
Hello.
Moss from the IT crowd is a fan of the UK quiz show Countdown and goes on the show, and Rachel Riley is a guest on that episode. Richard Ayoade, who plays Moss, has been on Countdown in real life.
I am a giddy goat.
Arthur Lowe, Captain Mannering in Dad's Army, had a clause in his contract that stated that he was to never be seen on screen without his trousers.
What is it? Don't tell him, Pike.
The role of Father Ted was originally to go to co-writer Arthur Matthews, but it went to Dermot Morgan after the writers saw an earlier performance of his as the character Father Trendy.
I hear you're a racist now, Father.
The police were called 92 times during the production of the first Borat movie.
I like you. I like sex.
Fleabag, the nickname of the central character, is also the nickname given to actress Phoebe Waller-Bridge by her family.
You shat in a sink.
The scene in Phoenix Nights where Keith Lard and Brian Potter are in the same shot. For the first time, the two Peter Kay characters are seen in the same shot, when both are played by Peter Kay, rather than using stand-ins in one of the roles.
You know what my biggest fear is?
Rabies?
Richard Wilson initially turned down the role of Victor Mildrew because he thought he was too young to play a 60-year-old. He was 53 at the time.
I don't believe it.
And when filming scenes for Some Mothers Do Have 'Em, Michael Crawford had to perform them in front of extras and cast members numerous times until they no longer found it funny. Even then, some takes were ruined by cast members giggling in the background due to Frank's antics.
Oh, nice.
There you go. Just to go back to the Richard Wilson one, he was 53 at the time of starting at One Foot in the Grave. That's a year younger than I am now. That is crazy.
Still time, mate. Still time.
Goodness, I
don't believe it.
I absolutely don't believe that. Anyway, yes, we're here to do top 10 British comedy characters. And when you think of characters that make you laugh, I couldn't think of anyone better than the Doug Meister himself. Dougie Fresh. The Doug, what do you call a man with a spade in his head? Doug. All of those.
Do you know?
He's back.
I've never heard that before. What do you call a man with a spade on his head? Oh, how are you, mate? Are you good?
We're all right. A few glitches pre-show, but everything's recording and everything's on. So, yeah, we're good, mate. Now, this was your idea, this one.
It was.
So what made you think of this one as a top 10? Because the thing is, I'm still changing my top 10 now, just to let you know.
Yeah, it's fine, mate. So am I. And I guess the fact that you're changing yours means we could slow ourselves down a little bit, because I'm having such a dilemma. And I think at the start, if you remember, the plan was, well, I thought the plan was, until you had a better idea, to just talk about characters from sitcoms. And then I messaged you to say, can we bend the rule to mockumentaries? No spoilers. And then we've got films. So I think we've got everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's just made it so much harder. I already had quite a lot of dilemmas going on. I think we could have some crossovers. I'm excited to see. And I think what might be really fun is we might have some characters. We might have different characters, but from the same show.
I think that's definitely because the trouble is, there's a couple of comedies that I'm sure we'll talk about that you could have literally picked any of the characters from it as you know, you and I think you're absolutely right. I think there'll be probably 4 or 5 that we could have easily had. See, I've got one that I want to put in, but I'm looking at my top 10 that I've got as it is now, and I can't think who I would take out to put this one in, and it is itching my balls, because I'm kind of thinking it's got to go in there, but the 10 that I've got are all it's going to be so hard. And then,
Yeah,
I mean, saying
yeah.
that, how many movie ones have you got in your top 10?
Well, that might spoil
Yeah,
things a
okay,
little bit.
that's fair. That's fair enough.
Um,
Because I was looking at it, I've got one, but that was from a TV show, so it's
it
kind
became
of.
a movie.
Do you know what I mean? It's so well, a couple of them are, but anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway,
I'll put it out there now. I've got one that if you guessed that I might have put this in, I'll be really impressed.
okay, fair enough.
Um, because it's not about necessarily the film. It's about it's the character. It's the
Right,
funny character to come out of Britain, isn't it? That's what we've got.
and that's what
Um,
we're looking for. I feel that's what we're
so
looking
yeah,
for.
the 10 people that, like you say, made us laugh. Yeah, I've got one that I think is gonna, just throw things wide open.
Okay,
And then after that one, I'll go back to normal and back on task, if
that's
you like.
fair enough. Well, before we do anything else, then we've been talking about duplicates, so let's play the jingle.
Lisa's challenge.
What are you saying?
Okay, so how many do you think we're going to get the same? Actual people, not worry about whether it's the same shows. Actual characters. How many do you think we're going to get the same?
Okay, so this is me committing to my top 10. No backing out.
Yeah, I've done the same now.
I
The polls have closed as they would
I think three.
You're going to go 3.
Yeah, not
Okay.
necessarily 3 shows, films, etc., but 3 actual characters we could do.
Okay. I'm gonna go 5.
All right then.
I'm gonna go. I think 50%. I think there's going to be maybe 6 or 7 of the same show, and I think then it's going to be a crapshoot in regards to what ones we pick from those shows. But I'm going to go 5. You're going to go 3. And again, I'm looking at mine. I've got some absolute legends, British comedy classic legends that aren't even in my top 10. So
have I. I mean, you know what? I'm glad you said that because I've got some not in my top 10 that I feel like they just weren't even a gut feeling from when I first thought about it. They were in the frame if we were doing the top 30, but I guess we
yeah,
haven't got all night and we've started a bit late. So
yeah.
yeah, they were never quite top 10. They were.
I mean, I'm not changing the name of the podcast now just to make it okay for you. I'm not calling it the top 30 of anything.
Well, I think it'd make it okay for both of us. But yeah,
well,
you've never.
would.
What episode are you on now?
Yeah, this is 146. I mean, I'd have to change all the merch and everything for that. So I'm sorry, Doug. I'm just not going to do that.
It's all right. If you don't want to do it for your list, then I think I can live with it for mine.
No, that's fine. I think out of all the top 10s that I've done, this is going to be the one where I'll be led in bed tonight thinking, that should have been in there. It really should have been. But like I say, we've closed the doors. We've got our top 10s.
The votes are in.
The votes are in. Everything is sorted. So hit us with your number 10.
All right, then. My number 10, it's from a film called Submarine from 2010. Right, okay. Number 10 from 2010. Directed by Richard Ayoade. And it's the main character, Oliver Tate, played by Craig Roberts. This is a film that I love to pieces. It's hilarious, and it's hilarious in a different way to, I think, most things that I maybe even find funny. I don't think Richard Ayoade directed really anything, certainly not much. We know him, he got a shout out earlier, didn't he, in IT Crowd? And we know him for being hilarious and all sorts of things. But as a director, I think this is a masterpiece. And the star of the show, like I say, is Craig Roberts as Oliver Tate. Have you seen this film?
You know what? It's one of those movies that when it first came out, and I've always thought I've got to see that, and I have never, ever got round to seeing it. And you're not the first person to say to me that how good of a movie it is. So what kind of comedy is it?
So the way I describe it, it's shot like a Wes Anderson film.
Right.
Okay. It's a gorgeously shot film set in I'm pretty sure it's South Wales. And the basically storyline is it's a teenage boy at school, and he's got 2 objectives in life. One is to prevent his parents' divorce, and the other is to lose his virginity. So yeah, I guess none of that maybe even really sounds that fun, but the thing that makes it funny all the way through is it's basically he has this monologue, and you keep hearing his thoughts as it goes along. It's him telling his story, and it's like a coming of age movie. It's like he is, because he's quite thick. He's not very clever, even though he speaks very cleverly in his monologues. And he's pretty bad with the girls, but he's like still trying to pursue this girl that he's in love with. He's, in a way, for me, he's like all four of the in-betweeners in one.
Oh, right, okay.
And like I say, you've got this film that is shot beautifully. All these shots of like the village and the beach, and this beautiful little town in Wales. It's shot sort of frame for frame, a bit like a Wes Anderson, and you even got this gorgeous acoustic Alex Turner soundtrack lulling over the top of it. And yet the storyline, the things that he's saying are just sort of bonkers. He's saying how that he can tell his parents aren't having sex because the dimmer in their bedroom's set high, so there's no intimacy there. And it's like he's playing a detective. Like there's almost like a bit of film noir the way he's investigating how his mum might be having an affair. And it does have a good backing cast. It's got Noah Taylor, Sally Hawkins, Paddy Considine, Stefan Rodri, a couple of other Gavin and Stacey cast members show up in there. But he is the star of the show, and he's just a different kind of funny. So he's one of them. But when he sort of went into my number 10, I thought I'll be annoyed at myself if I don't talk about him.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's another one to add to our ever-growing list, obviously, but I don't know why I've never actually got round to watching it. I mean, I don't know if it's on any streaming services to be able to watch it. Is it?
I think it's on Netflix. I should have. That's something I should have made notes of.
There you go.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I'm sure we can have a look, but yeah,
you can still pay to download things nowadays, but it's just a lot easier, isn't it? If you know if it's come onto Amazon Prime or Netflix or Disney Plus or something, it's just easier, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's definitely one to check out. Okay, good one to start with. Okay, I'm going for one that many people probably think it should be a bit higher, but I'm going for David Brent from The Office, from the original Office. Now, I don't think there's much more that can. And obviously, he moved into movie. He had the Life on the Road movie, which I kind of enjoyed. I think with everything that Ricky Gervais does now, it does seem to follow the same pattern. Whether it's Derek or Afterlife, he's just good
super dry.
Yeah, but he's also he knows how to tug on the heartstrings, and the thing with David Brent is, I've always said, because with David Brent, if you equate him to like the US Office and Michael Scott, apart from the very first episode of the American one, they're very different characters. Where David Brent just wants to be famous and doesn't give a shit about anybody else as long as he's famous. Whereas Michael Scott kind of really loves the people that he works with are his family. They think he's an idiot, but he loves them. Whereas, David Brent doesn't give a shit. He's quite happy to take a promotion even if people are going to get going to get sacked or whatever, or made redundant. But he has those moments. I mean, I'm sure everybody has had a boss like David Brent, and you just want to make sure that you don't ever end up being the David Brent in the room. Do you know what I mean? You want to be the person laughing at the David Brent in the room, as opposed to being the David Brent in the room. But I mean, I don't think there was a character quite like him when The Office first came on the TV.
No, it's amazing. I mean, what is it, 2002, 2000?
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. Over 20 years.
It's been a long time. And yet I think it's still sort of aged really well as a show, and his career just got even better. I mean, like you say, he did Afterlife, and he's not only an amazing writer, but he's amazing at writing characters for himself.
Yes.
They're both amazing. And I guess Office is naturally a lot funnier. Afterlife is quite a really hard watch at times.
Yeah.
But also amazing, and he is just really talented. And I think that definitely should be in there. It's not quite in mine, but that was I don't know. That was where Bournemouth would be in the table or something like that. It was just a bit, just not quite close to my top 10. But he's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, whenever we only do any of these, I always go on Google just to have a look at like their version of a top 50 or something, just so that I can look and think, oh yeah, I hadn't forgotten about him. And David Brent is normally in like the top 5 of anybody's countdown. So I was kind of looking at him thinking, should he be higher? But I love the US office more than the British office. I just think that because they had so many more episodes, you could learn to fall in love with the characters a lot more. And I think just having a writer's room, and no disrespect to Stephen Merchant and Ricky Gervais as writers, because some of the stuff that they do is like hilarious, and they've got some really great characters. But yeah, so he's there for my number 10. So
I mean, on what you just said about the the US and the American, it is a thing in this country where some of the best series have only done 2 or 3 series, whereas America, you look at Friends, Parks and Rec, and indeed The Office, they've gone on a lot further. But we seem to quit while we're ahead. And a lot in this country.
Well, it's always the one thing that Ricky Gervais has always said, that normally it's like 2 series and a Christmas special, and then that's it. Off they go and they do something else. And I think it does make it a little bit tighter, doesn't it? Whereas Americans, especially in the older days, they'd have 22 episodes. Look at Friends; it was 22 episodes in a series. So you'd sometimes have filler episodes or episodes that just weren't quite as good, but they always had good moments in them. Okay, then, Doug, you're number 9.
Right then, brace yourself.
Okay.
So this is a character that me and sort of shouting out one of my best friends, Matt, as well. This is a character who, if we talk about comedy and funny British people, this guy's often in the conversation, and it's not from a comedy. It's a film character from a fantasy film. The character is an antagonist. I'm not saying they're a villain, but they're definitely an antagonist, and it's actually Kenneth Branagh as Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Merlin, 3rd class, honorary member of the Dark Force Defence League, and 5 times winner of Which Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award. You just need to know all those things about him. So this is a guy who, you've seen Chamber of Secrets, you've seen all the Harry Potters, and we're always quoting. And this says how geeky we are. We're quoting him like I think most people are probably quoting David Brent or other British funny people that will probably come up later in this pod. But I just sort of think if that film, because it's obviously the second one in the series, the kids haven't really learned to act at that point, bless him, and he just makes it so much fun for us. It's one of my favorite films growing up, and it's a kind of comedy that I found it funny for the same reasons as 20 whatever years ago as I do now. As normally comedy can be subjective and it can change as you get older and things like that. And I also think you have your quirky villains that add so much heart. I mean, if you look at Hugh Grant in Paddington 2, Loki, a quirky villain can still be a great one. Go back to Madam Mim in Sword of the Stone. And then I also just think if you were to add Alfonso Cuarón, who directed Prisoner of Azkaban, if you added his dark tone as opposed to Chris Columbus, Home Alone, etc., and take Lockhart and Kenneth Branagh's performance out, you've got a really dark tone film where there's a giant snake running around trying to kill kids, and there's a load of spiders the size of gorillas and elephants and so on. And so I think he maybe just does a little bit more. Even though it was only in one film in the franchise, he does a little bit more than maybe gets talked about.
It's a good shout. I mean, he definitely hams it up, Kenneth Branagh, in that he's enjoying his role there, isn't he? But as we've always said, your top 10's are right. It's not, I can't turn around and say, well, actually, no, he's not, because would you say he's the comic relief of the movie?
I think so, definitely. I think, Rupert Grint sort of did the same thing, was like the dopey best friend, but we'd already seen that in Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah.
Hagrid can be a little bit funny. In fact, no, Hagrid's sort of funny in the first film. I shouldn't have said that, but in the second film, he gets arrested. So
that's right.
And Dobby is kind of funny as well, but you just sort of feel sorry for Dobby. Whereas, and Lockhart, he is a fraud, and he is trying to, be, I don't know, be something that he's not. And he's obviously a really bad teacher. And I saw a tweet once where it was basically Dumbledore must have seen his CV and thought, you know what, this will be hilarious. Let's put him in. And maybe the best tweet of all time was when, because someone pointed out that Kenneth Branagh directed one of the Thor films. I think it might be Dark World. And someone had said, like, I can't believe Kenneth Branagh directed this film. And someone replied saying, did he direct it, or did he just wipe the memory of the actual director and take credit for it? And I'm like, yes, that's why we love the internet.
It was the original Thor that he directed. Actually, it was,
What? All right,
the first one. Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah, I mean, and he gets his comeuppance at the end anyway, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And that was it's a good one. I would never have thought of that in a million years.
Just see where that was the one to throw you. I think we might understand each other a bit better. The rest of it.
Very good. Okay, my number 9. Now I had to have somebody from Father Ted. It had to be in there. So it could literally have been any of them. It could have been any of Father Ted, but I've gone for Father Dougal Maguire. Mainly because I just love the fact that there's no two sides to Father Dougal Maguire. You know, it's that innocence. It's that I just love the fact that he's normally right when he's talking. You know, the things that he says or does, or he's the one that's the innocent. He's the one that there's no devious plan with Father Dougal Maguire, unless I suppose the moment when he takes Father Jack off to the cliffs, but actually goes to the fun fair instead. I suppose it's those little the childish lies that he tells, but it's nothing compared to Father Ted and, you know, putting money into his account that was just resting and all that kind of stuff. He just has some of the lovely. I mean, the moment that always gets me is when, I think it is that first episode. Is it the episode with where the TV cameras are coming, and he has that thing in his head where it's the diagram of reality and fantasy with something like jumping out of his head.
Yeah, do you know what? I've not watched it for years. I got excited on the webcam and because I was hoping you'd say him, because I remember him being my favourite. Love the actor, and I think I've probably got some of, if not the best moments in it. Just genius, and he's lovable as well. You know, we've so far in the pod we've just talked about dickheads, really.
Yeah, that's right.
Or
that's
certainly,
right.
you know, my last one and your last one before it, and you said, you know, summed it so well at the start about how sometimes we hate them, sometimes love them. He's definitely one that you just fall for, you know.
Yeah,
you want him to be, you know, he's going to be your pal, not your boss.
And also it's just the fact that he loves the simple life. You know, he does, whereas obviously Ted wants to go off and be, you know, go to Vegas and has these big aspirations. But for Dougal, it's just to be there with Ted and just, you know, I love being a priest and all that kind of stuff. It's just fantastic. And he's got no, it's the third series where it was the, oh God, Pat Mustard episode. Do you remember Pat Mustard?
Oh no, I need to go back and watch this.
You gotta watch it. He was he was the milkman, but he was going around like shagging all the women on Craggy Island, and they're all getting babies that look like Pat Mustard with big sideburns. And he gets the sack, so Dougal takes over his his milk round, and it becomes like Speed. So Pat Mustard has put a bomb on the milk float, so if it goes over like 5 miles an hour, it's gonna.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
and there's a couple of times where Dougal goes to deliver the milk, and you see like the outline of the woman. It's a big busty woman there waiting for Pat Mustard, and she opens the door and he just goes, "There you go. 2 pints of milk, and she's got a big buxom woman right in front of him." And it isn't until he's led in bed at night and he goes, "She was in the nip." That's the funny thing, he just remembers. I love that innocence about Dougal. He's just such a lovely character. Okay, your number 8 then, please, Doug.
Okay, so this guy was originally a hell of a lot higher up my list, but no, I'm gonna stick to my guns, break my own heart. So this is a show that there's 5 possible characters I could have picked here. I never really thought about any of the other 4 because the other 4 are the in-betweeners, and the character I've chosen is the head of 6, Mr. Gilbert, played by Greg Davis, and he still is. And when I was at school, he was. I guess I was at school roughly watching it at a similar age, should we say. I'm not trying to make you feel old. It's just kind of when it came out.
You don't have to do that to make me feel old. I just feel old anyway.
He was the scary teacher, and he's one of the. I think he just makes the show, even though he's not in every episode. And I think what is amazing is he obviously has a hell of a lot less screen time than the other four. I don't even think he's in quite every other episode. But the in-betweeners is about being at school and being scared of growing up and facing adolescence and all the challenges that go with it. And no matter whether it's getting with girls or, their schoolwork or being bullied or anything that you could worry about, he finds a way to be the real school bully. Now, there is an actual school bully typecast, Mark Donovan, but Gilbert, the teacher, because the teacher is the one you're meant to trust, and he is just brutal. And one of the funniest visuals, pretty much every time you see him on screen, is him and Simon Bird, who plays Will, because he's about 3 foot taller than him. So you don't even always need the dialogue. It just looks jokes to see them on screen. But even when Will sends his mum into the school to, get the problem with work experience sorted out, he just finds it hilarious. He says things to Will like, "You're a virgin. If you don't do this job for me, I'm going to fuck up your UCAS." And it makes the show for me.
It's when they have they have that meeting thing, and Simon Bird's character goes, "Thanks, Phil," and he looks and goes, "Phil," and it's like, what the fuck are you saying to me?
Because I thought it was in out of school time. Well, you thought wrong. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm glad you. Yeah, that's probably might be my favourite moment in the show. I just think just the tension.
Yeah, Greg Davis used to be a teacher, didn't he?
Yes.
Back before he did comedy. Have you ever watched Man Down?
Yeah, is that the Netflix thing?
I think it's on Netflix now, but I think it used to be a Channel 4. But that's got like Rick Mail and everyone in it. I mean, that is like mad crazy, but it's such a good show. It's so much fun.
Have you ever seen Cuckoo?
See, that's the one that I have, because that's the one that had, was it Andy Samberg to start with?
Yeah, and then Taylor Lautner, which sounds strange. I think if you haven't seen series 1, it's quite hard to sell if you know about the cast change.
Right.
But I mean, it does say strong, but I mean, not, he's done so many things now. He's, one of these just British comedy legends, a Taskmaster as well.
Yeah, exactly. And his stand-up's really
good. And his stand-up, yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, that is a good one. See, I think I am slightly the wrong age for In-Betweeners. I've watched it. There's bits of it I find funny, and some of it I don't. And I don't know whether it's because of my age. Maybe I'm just a bit too old for that. Sort of makes me sound like a right old fart. But I don't know. There's some of it I do find really funny, but some of it I don't know. It's not as ingrained in me as a lot of other comedy shows.
But then there might be shows that I'm too young to appreciate, that need to get my shit together and grow up and get into, instead of just rewatching In-Betweeners, which came out 16 years ago or something.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see the film. We had when it came out, where they go to Mali, I think it is, and a load of us had met up, reunion from school and stuff, and there ended up being about 20. And we were all just howling in the cinema. Like, if you were just there, I don't know why you would see that movie on a date or with your family, but if you were there that day, I apologise, because we were screaming.
There'll be someone listening to this going, "That was you, was it? That was you that ruined it for me." Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. Okay, so my number 8 is one that is going to be way before your time, but it's a character that is legendary in British comedy. So I'm going for Frank Spencer in Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of Some Mothers Do Have 'Em.
I know the name.
You know the name. So it's a very 70s show. It's a very 70s BBC comedy. But it's, again, we talk about Father Dougal Maguire and his innocence. Frank Spencer had this innocence, but Michael Crawford is the person that played him, had this physicality to him, did all of these amazing stunts that were in like a BBC studio with a live studio audience, and there were filmed bits as well, because that's the way they used to do it back in the day. But this was the sort of thing that I would put on for my kids when I was like when they were little, and they love like Frank Spencer. They'll sit and watch. Even now, I'll put it on for them when and they're all old with their own kids now. But there's something about it's one of those family moments that has passed down for something like Frank Spencer, and some others do have them. I don't know how it would look, say, through your eyes if you watched it now, because you might look at it and go, "Oh God, this is a bit sort of tacky and a bit, it's got that 70s aesthetic to it, which is."
Am I the woke generation? Is that?
No. I don't think it's that, because I mean, obviously, I think there are bits in it where there may be certain words and terms that are used that are very 70s based, but I think it's more the way that it looks, the way that like a BBC sitcom in a studio with wobbly sets, and just the way that even sometimes the way that it sounds, the way that like the audio is recorded sounds like it's from a different era. When you watch like Monty Python, and you watch the bits that are in a studio with sometimes the jokes land, sometimes the jokes don't quite land, and it's not the kind of thing that you see now, because they'll stick canned laughter over the top of it or whatever. And whereas with 70s comedy especially the BBC, it used to feel like that. Sometimes it's a little bit awkward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping after this I'll go on YouTube and type in, I don't know, top 5 Frank Spencer moments, and I reckon, I'm hoping it resonates.
I'm sure there'll be a bit.
I imagine it's that level of iconic where sometimes I feel like we might go into this a bit later. Sometimes you don't know the character or even really the show or the sketch, but you do know the joke.
Yes,
you've seen the clip. You don't know where it's from. And that's that's how I got into some of the shows and characters we'll talk about later. So
yeah.
I don't really know any. I have nothing to add now, but in a year's time, we could end up doing a Frank Spencer podcast. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm easily hooked.
I think the most iconic. Well, there's 2 iconic moments. One is the roller skating scene, where he ends up holding onto the back of a bus and going through the streets with and the whole sort of story of that, and then also where he's the angel Gabriel in like a nativity play. And comes up through the hole in the comes up in the hole in the stage,
like
and
Taylor
ends
Swift.
going up through the roof. Oh, don't start me on Taylor Swift. And going up on ending up on the roof. But yeah, I would do that. Put top 5 Frank Spencer moments, and you might go, oh yeah, I've seen that before. But if not, it'll be an education for you anyway, Doug. No matter what.
Well, yeah, let's do it. That's why I listen to the pods.
That's the way to do it.
Learn something new.
Okay, your number 7 then, please, Doug.
All right then. My number 7 is, and I don't know if you've seen her, but I think I'm right in saying you're a bit of a Marvel fan.
I am.
I thought you might be. So this is it's not actually a Marvel character. This is the first acting role of this actress. So it's Violet Nordstrom, otherwise known as Vod from Channel 4's Fresh Meat, played by Zoe Ashton. I chose this because Fresh Meat could definitely always stick in my top 4 favorite comedies ever. I've seen some arguments on Reddit that it's not a sitcom, it's a drama that happens to be funny, but I don't think anything could be that funny and have actors like Joe Thomas, who's Simon in The Inbetweeners, Greg McHugh, and Jack Whitehall, who needs no introduction, without being a comedy. It's also written by the same guys who wrote Peep Show. Admittedly, Jesse Armstrong wrote Succession afterwards, but at the time, they were writing comedy. And it's, in some ways, people say it's like almost like a sequel to Inbetweeners, not just because of the cast, but Inbetweeners is about school teenagers, sixth formers, and this is about students. And there are 6 like main characters who all have their own quirky personalities and are funny for different reasons. And this was one, and I know we said this had happened, where okay, you've nailed that there's going to be someone from this sitcom in this show, but you can't choose which. And I flirted with different ideas. Like I was very, very set on Howard because I think apart from anything else, he was me at school and at uni in some respects, so relatable, so awkward and moody at times and liked to do things different and liked his geeky posters up. Like me and my girlfriend are about to move into our first house together, and she's unsure why I want to put all my Lego out and all my Star Wars stuff out. But it's a battle that I'm gonna keep fighting, as I'm sure
Yeah.
you'll back me up on.
Mm.
And Jack Whitehall could have said him, but he just plays himself. I mean, it's about a group of students in Manchester, which is where he went. But no, I landed on Vod, and she is this character who is every single line she says is gold. She's the student that everyone meets when they go to uni. You know, she's the one who's into partying, her drugs, and she's also she's studying English, but she just doesn't seem to get involved in it at all. Not invested. She's there to party, and she's also very political. So Fresh Meat came out roughly the same time as the 2010 coalition. So in it, there's actually an episode where they go to London and join the protests. And she's like, right, we've got some pig's blood. We're going to throw it at Starbucks and do, like a pint-sized Project Mayhem, if you like. And her friend, who's played by Charlotte Ritchie from Ghost, actually, she says, I don't think that's a Starbucks, that's an independent coffee shop. And she's, they'll get the message, and just throws it anyway. She's very well written, and she just really delivers. But in the later series, she has some pretty serious stuff as well. It's pretty serious sort of family storyline. So she can just do both sides. So really great actress and just great, diverse, but very funny character. Have you seen Fresh Meat?
You know what? I've not seen a single thing of it. Now, I'm not a massive Jack Whitehall fan, so I think that's probably what kept me away from it. Because there were movies as well, weren't there? Was there at least one movie, I think?
No, I tell you what you're thinking of, and this is a car crash, is the Bad Education movie.
Bad Education, right? I always thought that was the same thing.
Yeah, it's... I mean, Bad Education had an audience. It wasn't me.
Right.
But, it's successful in its own right, and it's popular. But yeah, I can definitely see why Jack Whitehall could put people off.
Right. So
he's not. I think he's hilarious, but he's not to everyone's taste. Whereas I think I think most people who watch the show probably most going to enjoy Vod as a character.
Right. So would you say, because I think since we last spoken, I actually did a deep dive and watched Peep Show, because I'd never watched it before.
Finally.
And I ended up watching it like over, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I watched the whole, all of it. So is it in that same kind of vein as Peep Show?
Yeah. Similar sense of humor. Obviously, I mean, it's filmed completely differently. You don't have the internal monologues.
Yeah.
But you definitely have characters that are sort of interested in their politics, but also really funny, interested in their drugs and things. And I don't think they really always take it too extreme. I just think they just nail the stereotypes of the kind of people that you meet at uni. Right. There's a seedy professor played by Tony Gardner from My Parents Are Aliens and Thick of It. It's two guys who'd written Peep Show, wanted to write a sitcom about when they're at uni, and I think just nailed it. So again, could have chosen 2 or 3 different ones, but she's my number one. I mean, you've seen Peep Show now, so I could say she's sort of like the super hands of the show. If we're gonna,
right, okay.
If you were to think Howard is probably the Mark, and 2 or 3 of them could probably be the Joe. She's the super hands, definitely.
Right. Okay. I will have a look. I mean, I can put if it's more of an ensemble kind of thing, then that, if it's not a vehicle for Jack Whitehall, I don't know. I don't know what it is about him. It's no disrespect to him. He doesn't float my boat.
Completely understand. I mean, well, I guess it's 6 storylines. Obviously, they live together, so it's intertwined. But have you seen Ghosts?
That's another one that sort of slipped me by, and I should like that because I like all the people that are in it. All the guys that do the horrible histories and all of that kind. I love all those guys. So our missus has watched it all. It's just there's too much to watch, Doug.
I know.
I'm still waiting for that Matrix chip that they can just stick in the side of my head, and then all of a sudden I'm caught up with all the TV shows, and that would be wonderful.
Okay. Oh, well, the alternative is another lockdown, and we can't be doing that.
I mean, no, but that's the thing, isn't it? I think if we'd all known what lockdown was going to be, I'd have done nothing but done sit-ups and binge-watched all my shows. But I didn't, because you didn't know what the hell was going on, but I completely agree. Yeah, just give me like 16 weeks of doing nothing, and I'd have been like a pig in shit. Okay, so my number 7 is another one that should probably be higher, and would be higher on everybody else's top 10 British comedy characters, and that's Alan Partridge.
Wow.
I know it's low.
Yeah.
I think he is one of the greatest comedy characters of all time. My reason that he's lower, the one thing about Alan Partridge was that every so often there'd be a series, and it would carry on the story of Alan Partridge, and then you wouldn't hear anything for years and years and years. Then there'd be another series.
Yeah, it spans. It really spans, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now it seems that, and I bought the first 2 audiobooks of his like memoirs, if you like, and if you love Alan Partridge, don't buy the book. Get the audiobook, because Steve Coogan does it as Alan Partridge, and it's like 7 hours more of Alan Partridge being Alan Partridge, and it is great. All the books are really great. Well, the first 2 books are really great. Yeah. I listened to the third one, and a little bit like, I can't remember, what was the name of the last show that he did where it was like a chat show?
Oh, This Time. Some of it was really good, some of it not so good, and it seems to me now that there's like almost like there's too much Alan Partridge. There were so many gaps of when it was Alan Partridge that when you got it, it was special, brilliantly written. Armando Iannucci was involved and all that, and it was like really, really. The first series of Knowing Me, Knowing, well, the series of Knowing Me, Knowing You, and then see, I'm losing the. What was the fucking? Well, there's just, I know why it's confusing, because like you say, there is so much of it, and I think it was early 90s when it started, and he's still making stuff now. I think Steve Coogan has aged brilliantly. If you look at,
I mean, he's aged into the character a lot more, hasn't he? But the only reason that it isn't higher is I think that the quality of the stuff now is just not the same level as it was with, you know, just the first couple of series of the sitcom, and like I say, the first couple of audiobooks. It was just top-notch stuff. And even I watched, I think it was on Netflix, the last live show that he did, and it wasn't funny at all. And I remember at the time when people were going to it and then coming out and doing stuff on social media saying, yeah, it wasn't very good. And I thought, oh, let's watch it and see. And it really wasn't. And I don't know whether he's maybe flogged it to death now as a character, and it's a shame, because he's a great character. He really is. But yeah, and it seems really weird for me to be slagging off a character that's in my top 10 of greatest ever British comedy characters. But he has to be there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you're setting the bar high for the rest of your top 6 or whatever's left, aren't you? That's that. I think that does justice, definitely.
Yeah.
I used to have an app actually called Radio Alan, and it was linked to your iTunes. So you just play your music as you're going along, as you're walking along in the car. But then between every couple of songs, there'd be a clip of Mid Morning Matters.
Oh, really?
I remember one of the best drives probably of my life. The new Arctic Monkeys album had come out, and I was listening to it, loving it. And every 2 tracks, instead of the next song, you get, today we're talking condiments. You're stuck on a desert island. It's just, and then I got a new iPhone and it got discontinued. I wrote to BBC, never heard back. Yeah, it was probably unlicensed. So I was writing to the wrong people. But we don't use the word iconic too much, but he is quintessential. Let's go.
I agree. He's definitely there. He should be in the top 10. So yeah, so without a doubt. Okay, then Doug, you're number 6.
Right, my number 6. Believe it or not, this was the first character I actually thought of that I wanted to have in my top 10. So the fact they're only number 6, there's just so many out there, and it could have been higher. Don't think he was getting much lower. And it's Alice Tinker from Vicar of Dibley, played by the late, infinitely great Emma Chambers. There's a lot of shows I've watched, and I said this earlier about who did I say it about? I said this about Lockhart. Humor that changes with age, disappears, develops. This is another character where, when I first watched her in the 90s, she was hilarious, and she's hilarious now for the same reasons. If I'm gonna give Vicar of Dibley a rewatch, the whole cast is brilliant. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, Dawn French is amazing. I think Gary Waldhorn's great. James Fleet as the son who gets bullied, and of course is in love with Alice. Their whole love storyline is just amazing. And she's, as well as having some really funny dialogue, she's usually a really obviously important part of the plot. It's she who knows that she has a cousin called Reg Dwight and thinks that he is now Elton John, and invites her cousin to open the fair, and then it turns out it's just some random old geezer called Reg Dwight, and it's just her innocence, her naivety. I think that I can't believe it's not but a sketch shouldn't be funny anymore, having watched it 100 times, but it just is. And what I also really like is at the end of each episode they have a little like post-credit scene. You know, the original post-credit scene, screw you Marvel, where Geraldine tells her a joke and she either doesn't get it at all or she thinks she's got it, but she's completely misunderstood. And just brilliant. And when they did some sort of Vicar of Dibley sort of shorts during lockdown, after Emma Chambers had passed away, I know Dawn French just found those really, really hard to film as well. Because they were really good, really close friends. But yeah, she's. You've seen Vicar of Dibley, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's no one of those characters with the innocence as well, isn't it? All right, she may be stupid, but she's got that. All she cares about is the vicar, really, and she's just got that innocence that draws you to her as a lovely character. But she says and does like stupid but funny things, and it doesn't quite grasp. You know, it becomes a thing where she doesn't quite grasp what the joke is, and then you know that that's what's going to be, but it's still funny.
Yeah, I mean, as we're recording, I rewatched an episode recently. As we're recording this, it's actually the day before the general election, and there's a sketch where she says, "Oh, I didn't know who to vote for. They're all so nice, but just to make sure the Tories didn't get in, I put a massive fat cross to make sure they absolutely wouldn't get it." And it's just like that. It's clever writing, but her delivery is fantastic, and a bit like you were saying with how she is about Jodie, she's like a fierce friend.
Yeah,
she's like, when Jerry's a bit worried about this service she's going to do, she's like, "Oh, I'll back you up. Like once I was in the playground, I stabbed someone in the head with a protractor." It's like, wow, you've got a violent side all of a sudden. I'm not going to mess with you either. Like, brilliant.
Yeah, so good. Okay, that's your number 6. My number 6. Now I'm going for someone that I think is a comedy genius. So I'm going for Chris Morris for the Day Today. So he's like the news anchor, if you like, for the mock news program, the Day Today. I could have. There's so many things you could say about things like Brass Eye that that if anybody that hasn't ever seen Brass Eye, it's one of those shows that is just it pushed the boundaries of everything, absolutely everything, and that's something that Chris Morris has done from the start of his like comedy career, is push boundaries of everything. And I can remember watching the Day Today the first time, and I thought it was an actual like news program because it's done so well. All of the sort of in between graphics and that is just great. And obviously Steve Coogan was in it. It was where Alan Partridge was sort of born, if you like. Well, it was the radio show before that, but Chris Morris as the news anchor, there are so many sort of random things that happen that he is just so dry. There's just something about Chris Morris. He's a great writer and he's a great director. Four Lions, I thought, was just like...
I was just going to say, yeah.
Just genius. Absolute genius. But him playing this character as a news anchor and that he is just so dry. And it's just like, it is absolutely real. But everything, a lot of that he's saying is absolutely ridiculous. I had to have him somewhere in my top 10. You know.
Do you know, it's funny, because I nearly had a character from Four Lions in my top 10. But yeah, they were brother Faisal was top 30. Yeah, definitely. Because amazing actor and amazing writer.
Yeah.
Because
he does things that shouldn't. It shouldn't be funny
like that.
It should be totally horrific. With any of the kind of things that he does, especially things like Brass Eye. And I don't think you could make things like that today, you know, especially when you get politicians talking about this made-up drug cake and you know, and slamming it, and Joss Ackland's spunky backpack is the one that always sticks in my mind. It's just so many things about it that shouldn't work. And I think you have to have a certain kind of sense of humor.
Yeah, almost like you have to understand both sides, like writer and actor, director.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said about Ricky Gervais earlier. Yeah, you have to be so clever to hit that note and get that right.
Yeah, because I agree with Ricky Gervais that in context you should be able to do comedy about anything, because it's in the context of comedy. Now, some people like Ricky Gervais will take it to the very edge, and sometimes and sometimes they almost but they also they use it. Some comedians can then use that as an excuse. Well, it's comedy, so I can say what I want. And I suppose they're right, because it's in the context of comedy. But if I just said some of the things, it's cancel stuff, you know. But it's a very, very thin line to walk along. I suppose you just got to accept and take the flack and take the shit if it comes, don't you? But
just say it in front of the right people.
Yes,
such a big audience.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
right.
As we've learned from the internet, someone's always going to find something offensive. So
always. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. Right, we're halfway through, so it's time for this
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Okay,
oh
so
God,
we've got.
What fresh hell have you done for me this time?
I think you'll be all right on these. You've got 10 comedy, British comedy questions. Okay, I think you're going to do well. Okay, now I think 80%, 8 out of 10 is the best we've had, and that was by Anne Hegarty, one of the chasers.
Oh right, so yeah,
so 80%.
That's to play for.
That's to play for. So here we go. Number 1. What movie character did David Brent dress up as part of the blind date stage show from the Christmas Office special?
Say that again one more time.
What movie character did David Brent dress up as part of the blind date stage show from the Office Christmas special?
I've hit a brick wall straight away. Just tell me.
Oh, why am I'm not dinging you? I should be doing that one. Yeah. It was Austin Powers.
Fuck.
It was Austin Powers. Groovy, baby. Come on, did the blind date. Number 2. Who plays Gary's flatmate in the first series of Men Behaving Badly? That might be a bit before your time, that one, wasn't it?
I never got into Men Behaving Badly. I'm just thinking.
Oh, right. Okay.
Lee Mack.
It was Harry Enfield. Number 3.
I've just realised I'm thinking of a completely different show, so that's fine. I was thinking of yeah.
You think about that Not Going Out?
Not Going Out. Yeah.
Number 3. Ronnie Barker played Norman Fletcher in prison comedy Porridge. What was his middle name?
Yeah. What was the character name again?
Norman Fletcher.
Again, I've just never really watched it. I've seen it, but Norman Fletcher. Yeah, and just nothing's. I don't know, Barry.
It's not. It's Stanley. At the start of every episode, there was a voiceover that says Norman Stanley Fletcher.
No, I got 2 of the letters right. I'll take that. Has anyone ever got 0 in this quiz?
I think someone must have done. They must have done. Let's say no. No, they haven't. So this could be a first. Number 4. What was the name of Denise and Dave's son in the royal family?
Oh my God, I never really got into that. I know. Jesus. You just managed to pick all the comedy that I've not into. I thought every question could just be about Peep Show or something.
Could be. That'd be boring.
Yeah, that would be boring. I'd do all right.
I know.
It'd be really
exactly.
Boring. Yeah.
Got to make it a bit bit fun. Come on.
That should be easy, but Pass.
It was Baby David. Baby
Yeah,
David.
I've only watched it, Royal Family, but there's no Royal Family in my top 30.
Is there not? Oh dear.
No.
Okay. Well, let's see if there's any of these in your top 10 then. Where in Wales does Stacey live from Gavin and Stacey?
Barry Island.
Yes, he's got one. So you're not going to know this one, but you can have a guess. What country did Frank Spencer and his family emigrate to at the end of Some Mothers Do Have 'Em?
Singapore.
It was Australia. Number 7.
Yeah.
In Absolutely Fabulous, what was the name of Adina's daughter? Not an Absolutely Fabulous fan?
No, what made you think I was?
I just the way you walked and talked. I don't know.
I'm just gonna go. I might as well have a stab in the dark with this one. What were the parents' names?
Well, it was Adina. It's her mum.
Florence.
Saffron or Safi. Number 8. In which show did we see the television debut of Alan Partridge? I've given that one away.
Oh bloody hell! It was the foot. Yeah, you know what you have. Now the pressure to remember it. Oh God!
I literally just talked about it.
Yeah, no, I know we did, and that's why I can't think. Oh bollocks! Can we cut this whole quiz bit out?
Oh no! Oh no! We can't do that.
Oh God! Yeah, you've just said it. For God's sake. No, just shoot me.
It was the day-to-day. Number 9. Simon Pegg played Tim in Spaced. What was Tim's surname?
You see, I've seen Spaced, but
wow, I'd have thought that would have been in your. That would have been like one of.
No,
yours,
do you know what it was? My uni, my tutor of all people took me introduced to Spaced. I watched. I didn't actually get that into it. I really like the cast, but
yeah. Okay, so you're not going to know this one.
Is it something quite random?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, just. That's it.
It's Bisley. Tim Bisley.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get that on the random.
Final one. What is the name of the award that Father Ted wins and then gets stolen from him?
Sod off. I don't know if it's the pressure of the quiz or whatever, but I just don't. I don't know fucking anything right now. I'll take the 1 out of 10.
It was the Golden Cleric. It was the Golden. Yeah, so you got 1 out of 10. Look, you didn't get the 0. That's all that matters. Okay.
Yeah.
That's. Oh,
I'm just back looking at my full top 30 now, not my top 10. There's
nothing of any of those. I mean, what's the odds?
None of those shows. The Office, that was a balls up outright. Yeah, no, just none of those shows or films.
If this was a meme now, this would be where the voiceover comes over and says, "And this was the moment that Doug cancelled his Patreon subscription." Because every question was about ones that you didn't have in your top 10, but I wasn't to know that, was I? So anyway,
yeah. I mean, that just goes to show how much comedy there is out there.
Indeed, absolutely.
I still think, I could sing my list of shows and films to you. I think they're still all belters. They're definitely a lot of them are from this, the last 10, 15 years.
This century.
In fact, you know what? I think this century. Yeah, I wasn't going that far, but yeah, I mean, I think one of my drafts was a show that only started in 2017.
Right.
So really recent. Hence, hasn't been around long enough. But
that's fair enough.
Yeah, no, that I had to say this to Neil in the last one. I nailed the Simpsons quiz.
Yeah,
if you remember. But that
that's
was
right.
when there was only 5 questions, I think, or it was a
It was first to
winner
like
stays on.
3 or first to 5. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I only had to
But then,
answer
to be
like
fair,
3 of
that was
them.
all
Yeah,
about your family. So I mean, of course you're going to get,
that's it,
of
isn't it?
course you're going
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
those ones right. Right
Yeah,
then,
it'd be a
Doug,
shit
hit
show.
us with your number 5. Come on, hit us with your number 5.
Oh, are we still doing this, right?
We're still doing this.
All right. Well, I think I might have said that during the quiz. One of this character's best known quotes is, "What the actual fuck?"
Right.
You might have had a guess. It's another show where I had to pick carefully and think hard about who was going to get the top spot in the show. It's Kerry Mucklow from This
Yay.
Country. Yeah, she is. Uh, I guess I was trying to choose between her and Curtin and the vicar. And then I thought, for 2 that really make me laugh are those 2, the cousins. And then eventually I was just landed on Kerry. I think on a different day or a different hour, it could have been Kurt. And I think they're equally brilliant. I just think she probably makes me laugh just a tiny bit more. But if I rewatch it tonight, I might change my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
She is everything that I want to see in comedy in a show. I mean, I don't think of This Country movie is on the cards anytime soon, but in a show, it's a show. What each episode's about 20-25 minutes. Small doses of just every single line is incredible. Yet another person who wrote the character for herself, and as apparently she says every now and again, sort of based on herself. I think she has really good character development. I think she changes, not too much, but changes, a fair bit, becomes a slightly nicer person, a slightly less aggressive and threatening person, especially from series 1 to 2. And I guess there's so many moments to pick, but I think just the second episode of series 2, when she's doing her random acts of kindness, her face just lights up a room. And I mean, she's got a second minor role in the show, which I won't spoil, as we know. But yeah, just fantastic acting, almost like effortless, brilliant comedy, and she's just so lovable. Even though at times she also does some really awful things to her own family.
Indeed.
You've seen this show once or twice, haven't you?
I've seen it. I think I know what you're talking about. The weird thing is like, I mean, it's been, I don't know how many years since we finished doing that podcast, and I've not watched it since, just because I think I was so close to it when it was out, and I'd watched it and dissected it like every 15 seconds of that show. That I feel like now I'm ready to go back and watch it again, but just watch it as a fan, as opposed to somebody that was preparing podcasts for the episodes and for the characters and stuff. So I mean, I had Kerry. I have Kerry or Curtin. I think it was Curtin in my top sort of 15 or so, but they didn't quite. But again, the vicar could have quite easily had gone in there, because they're all just so rich and well-rounded characters. Even Martin. I mean, even Martin as a character.
I flirted with that idea, and then I thought, if I'm not careful, this is just going to be the top 10 This Country characters.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you end up. It can easily be taken over. Yeah, I agree. But that is a good one. So yeah, it's nice to have a bit of This Country representation in there, though.
Yeah, and I mean, in all honesty, she was someone from This Country was definitely going to be there, because it's just one of my favorite shows ever. And again, I mean, I guess do you know what? That I've just realised that started in 2017, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
That wasn't even the character I was thinking of. So yeah, that's 2. See, this is it. If we'd done 2010 onwards top characters, then maybe I'd have got 2 out of 10 in the quiz instead of 1. But next year.
Next year. Okay, my number 5. I'm going for a character that has been in 4 series, and completely different in each series. I'm going for the one from the series 2, but it's Edmund Blackadder, and I'm going to go for Blackadder the second, as the specific character, if you like. I think it's Rowan Atkinson's greatest character. I mean, obviously Mr. Bean is another one who I find he's hilarious. I think he's really great. But the Edmund Blackadder from the second series from the Elizabethan era, was just, I mean, I think he's the closest he's ever been to like a bit of a heartthrob. He's like this. He's a dashing, sort of the way that they dressed with their cod pieces swinging freely and just all fine and dandy. To me, it was just so brilliantly written.
Yeah.
And so much from the first series, which was okay, had some moments, but wasn't consistently great. Every episode in series 2 is an absolute classic. And the one person that should be in my top 10 that isn't in my top 10 was also in that series, and that's Lord Flashheart. The Rick Mail character should have been in my top 10, but I couldn't fit him in there, which is crazy. So now again, I mean, that's an 80s show.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing that has travelled to you?
Oh yeah, no. That was in my that was Premier League actually.
Right.
There's so many. My personal favourite is always Blackadder Christmas Carol.
That's a great one as well.
And again, and the way they dress, you're right. It's halfway between like a period drama and a pantomime. Like it's just absolutely bang on. And I mean, amazing cast. He's your front man. But when you look at some of the other actors and actresses that pop in throughout the series, you're like, oh yeah, Robbie Coltrane, Miranda Richardson, obviously Hugh Laurie, Murray Margley, Jim Broadbent. It's like Stephen Fry, the Avengers, if you like, of British comedians who went to Cambridge specifically. I love it, absolutely love it, and that is one that I think it's travelled pretty well. I definitely go back to it.
Yeah.
It helps that I think it's on iPlayer pretty consistently.
Yes.
Which is handy because it's not one that I actually have on like DVD or anything.
And because it's a period piece, it's timeless as well.
Yeah,
it's a bit like the period sort of Carry On films. Yeah. They don't feel like they were made in the 60s, same as that doesn't feel like it was made in the 80s because it's of a different era anyway.
Yeah,
so I think that makes it a little bit more timeless.
Yeah, I mean, if they hadn't done the Muppet Christmas Carol, that would be the version that I want to see repeated to teach people the story of Christmas Carol.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, okay, so it's not quite like this. It's not Tiny Tom, but we move.
That's a good point.
I suspected we might see at least one of us might do that from the start.
Yeah.
Have him in there. Good choice on that series as well, on that episode.
Cool, fair enough. Okay, you're number 4 then, Doug.
Well, funnily enough, it's Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean.
Oh, you got Mr. Bean in there.
I have, yeah.
Lovely.
Really don't know which thing I wanted to talk about, but I think just peak Mr. Bean for me is actually his first film when he goes to America. I just adore that. That was, again, one of maybe my introduction to him. I feel like I probably watched his show on video, the earlier ones when he goes to the swimming pool in his Mini, and there's the rival 3-wheel car, just sensational. But when he the film that they made, it was just about him fucking with America, and just such a clever thing, and also obviously his show is each episode's 15-20 minutes again. Not even that, they're almost just like short sketches. So to get a full, I don't know how long the film is, I guess 90 minutes to 2 hours probably, but to get a full feature film out of that where he has next to no dialogue until he does his speech, it's really just all his visual acting, and I think it's incredible. And I've just been at Glastonbury actually.
Right.
And we were trying to think of a flag for ages, and I just couldn't do one. But I said to everyone, I was like, if we get tickets next year, the flag I want to take is the portrait of Whistler's mother, but with the sketch of the smiley face drawn on. And if I don't get Glastonbury tickets, maybe I'll just get a T-shirt with that instead, because it's just and again, the visual comedy. I mean, we're doing British comedy characters, but Mr. Bean is funny in every language because he doesn't speak.
Yeah, it's basically a silent movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, which is another layer of just genius. And the cartoon series, is fantastic. So, that probably helps bring it over to a new generation, just a bit more
Yeah.
sort of like child friendly and probably a bit more silly, but with all the charm of his original show.
Mm.
And I just think Mr. Bean's Holiday, it's not his best work, but it's a perfectly acceptable, funny film. Needs a little bit more going on. Like you got Willem Dafoe doing a cameo in it, things like that to
I've never seen
add
that
another
one.
layer.
I've never seen
Yeah,
it.
I don't know if you like it. It's a lot more modern than I think the Mr. Bean that you sort of found up with, but it's still him just being an idiot, and he's on a new adventure. I think you couldn't make a film where he's in London in his Mini. You need him to be exploring somewhere and pissing off people in another part of the world. But yeah, just all round consistently great character, I think.
Very good. Very good. Okay, yeah, he didn't make my top 10, but I think that's because I had Ebb and Blackadder, so I thought I just left it at one, Rowan Atkinson.
Sometimes that makes it easier to make the choice.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I could. Well, we'll get to it. I was going to say something else, but I'll leave that for a sec. My number 4. I had to have Matt Berry in there, so I could have chosen. It could have been Toast. Stephen Toast from Toast of London, but I'm going with Douglas Renham from the IT Crowd. This
good
was,
name.
This was sort of my it's a very good name. This was the first time that I'd seen Matt Berry, and because I wasn't really a Mighty Boosh fan, so I hadn't seen him in that, but I did start watching his stuff sort of retrospectively after, like, who is this with this amazing voice and this amazing head of hair? So then things like Toast was just like, it was just like dropped in my lap as this wonderful gift. And like I said, I could have easily put that, but every single scene that Matt Berry is in the IT Crowd, he steals that episode from whatever that episode is about. Just that voice is just something else. But I love Matt Berry. I think he is, and I say that, and I still haven't. I've watched the first couple of episodes of What We Do in the Shadows. I've not watched any more of that, and I need to get on and watch What We Do in the Shadows, because everybody that I speak to, they say that Matt Berry is like the best thing in it. He's amazing. So now I don't know whether you've watched. You obviously watched
watched IT Crowd. Yeah, it's quite lit up. Yeah, and then. Moz was in the frame for me, and to be fair, so was Chris O'Dowd.
Yeah,
I'd had a few things lined up. None of them quite were. I think I think they're all just brilliant. Just none of them are things that I've gone back to and rewatched and kept finding hilarious. But I'm sure if I still went back, they'd still be great. I'm sure he's a talented actor who have aged really well. I haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows either.
Right.
It's again, we could say it all night, especially with my bloody quiz. There's the to-do list, the to-watch list. But yeah,
it's too much.
Yeah, and he's not in all of IT Crowd.
No, it was Chris Morris was in the first series.
That's right. Yeah,
as his dad. Yeah. So then he turns up when Chris Morris jumps out of the window because there's irregularities in the pension fund.
Yeah.
Then Douglas Renham turns up at the church. Father!
There we go.
I love it. He's just so good. Okay, then, Doug, you're number 3.
Okay, well, the only one that I got right in the quiz was a Gavin Stacey question. If you'd done a Gavin Stacey question I got wrong, I'd have been mortified because we sort of mentioned it before. I actually run a Gavin Stacey fan and memes page, which started just before lockdown, then turned out to be the ideal lockdown project.
Right.
Because we started doing these virtual quizzes, and obviously you don't need to sell many tickets. Don't need to worry about selling many tickets. Sorry, in lockdown, because people are just playing from their own homes.
Yeah.
So it was easy to get loads of numbers, and it's something that I've carried on doing afterwards. I've been going to London quite a bit to carry on the project down there. So if you're a Gavin Stacey fan living in London, follow my page. I'll get you to stick it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And we're towards the end of this year. It was in the autumn. We're almost definitely going to be in Cardiff. I don't know if we'll get to Barry, but definitely going to do Cardiff. And the page is called Uncle Bryn's Cracking Meme Page. So again, Gavin Stacey, there was 2 or 3 characters that I thought, yeah, they're definitely in the frame. I've stuck with Bryn, not just because he's a personally favourite for those reasons I've just mentioned. I also just think he's a fantastic comedy character. Simple as. Gavin and Stacey is a show about meeting families, meeting the new family when you're in a relationship. That is, the backbone of the show. And he's sort of got two layers. He's the quirky, sort of slightly strange uncle. I mean, it makes everyone in Barry out to be strange. The show, I feel like that's part of the joke. But he's also Stacey's father figure. He's, very kind-hearted, and he has some really, heartfelt moments. On a wedding day, he reads the letter that a dad wrote before he died and things like that. So he's got range. I mean, it's Rob Brydon, absolute national treasure. He's honestly just a lovely character to watch. He's a panicker. He's a digital dinosaur. Hates technology. Back when Gavin Stacey was filmed, he was struggling to work an old school computer or a sat nav. So if you imagine him on TikTok nowadays, or indeed Zoom, he'd be having an absolute meltdown, I think.
Yeah.
He's got some brilliant sort of lines. I mean, he's got a catchphrase. He always walks in through the back door and says, "Only me."
Yeah.
Even though he lives opposite the front door, which is one of the great mysteries of the show, and I think British sitcoms. And yeah, he just sort of had to be in there. He's another character that lights up a room, and yeah, I plenty I could say about him, but I think I've covered my favourite bits. I mean, you know the show.
Yeah, that dark underlying secret that he has as well that never ever has been. I don't think it's ever been absolutely explained.
No, well, they teased
almost
it.
They teased it,
yeah, and there's obviously another
fishing
episode.
Trip.
There's another episode, the finale, hopefully, on Christmas Day this year.
Yeah.
But we figured out it's something pretty, dark and strange. One of the quiz nights I did, I actually had a Play-Doh contest, and the Play-Doh challenge was to make what you think happened on the fishing trip out of Play-Doh, and
right.
it was morbid. I'm not going to go into it.
I bet it was.
I'm just gonna suggest that I think it went to show that as a nation, even though it was only 15, 20 quiz teams in somewhere in Brixton, I think it's sort of definitely confirmed to me that as a nation we know it's something pretty horrible. I don't think we do want to know. Just let them keep it a secret, because if it gets out, then you're imagining Bryn and Jason knowing that it's out there, and no one needs to go through that.
No.
It does confirm in the show. They say it was legal in that country. something. But does that mean Wales or Great Britain? We'll never know.
We'll never know. Maybe we'll know on Christmas Day. What a lovely Christmas gift!
Christmas ruined. Yeah.
At
least it's on after dinner.
Exactly. Hopefully after 9 o'clock as well.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 3. Okay, again, I'm going to go with the actual actor. So I could have chosen a lot from Rick Mayall. He was another comedy genius of my era, if you like, growing up. But I'm going to go for Rick from The Young Ones because, and again, I could have chosen any of the Young Ones, to be fair. But as somebody, so that came out sort of mid-80s. So that's when I was, final years of comprehensive school, and it was a religion. You had to have watched it. It was I think it was 9 o'clock on a Monday night. So if you didn't know every single joke from The Young Ones on Tuesday morning,
right,
then nobody would talk to you. So and there was me and another kid that could do a really good Rick impersonation, and it's the only time girls ever spoke to me at school. Oh, go on, do your Rick. So you would do it, and then for that little 5 minutes, you were the superstar of the school, and then they'd go off and not talk to you again. But it was, like I say, it was the Young Ones was a religion for the 2 series that they did, and again, when you watch it back now, it looks very 80s because it's got 80s music and all that, and the different sort of special effects for the screen and that looks very dated. But it'll always, for me, it's one of those series that like this was speaking to me at my age at that time, so it'll always have a special place in my heart. And I think it's just a shame that Rick Mayall passed away when he did, because it would have been really fun and interesting to see what maybe. Because I always think like Bottom was the Young Ones characters, but grown up. and to see if they'd have maybe done another series of something where it would have been, you know, an old age pension Rick and Vivian or whatever you want to call them. That would have been sort of really fun to see what they would have done. But alas, you know, but he had to be in my top 10, so I'm going to have Rick at number 3.
I mean, for what it's worth, there's a show I've watched where in that show, in that sitcom, there's a character who actually that is his chat up line. Like this girl who's way out of his league says to him, "Do you remember when you used to do your Rick from the Young Ones impression?" And that's it. He's pulled. So the idea. So you just said that. I was like, well, I mean, yeah, but the idea of being able to pull and you know turn straight into a sex god by doing a Rick impressions, then yeah, like you must.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was a sex god. I wish I'd have been a sex god, but unfortunately, it just meant that girls spoke to me, which was, I mean, to be fair, that made me feel like a sex god. But
there you go, then.
I didn't get any action out of it, mind, but I was at school, so I wouldn't expect to anyway.
Oh yeah, you did say, yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, we'll just go with attractive. Yeah.
Okay, you're number 2 then, Doug.
Okay, so the show that I just mentioned, where that happens, the Rick Mail impression chat line, was Peep Show. So the character who apparently does that Rick impression, we never hear it. Maybe Robert Webb could do it one day on maybe on one of these. Let's tweet him. That's Jez. But the character I've gone with, and again, these are a duo. They make the show. I've gone with Mark again, just because I'm unfortunately must be more like Mark. I just found him funnier.
Right.
I mean, this is a show. It turned 20 last year. And to be fair, the same guy I do the Gavin Stacey stuff with, Giles, my business partner, he's gone way ahead and created Dobby Clubs. If you're a Peep Show fan, hopefully you've heard Dobby Club. And what Giles does is he set up a quiz night with Big Mad Andy, who's one of the cast members. And he's done a few others with other cast members, not quite Mitchell and Webb just yet, but we can dream. And it turns into Comic Con for Peep Show fans. You know, you just go to these events and you're saying these jokes and these weird lines that would not really be, they wouldn't be like offensive, or some of them would, but most of them wouldn't, but they wouldn't resonate in any other scenario. But the cult following that this show has, it just keeps getting better and better. You know, this quiz they've been doing, which every now and again I can blog a gig out when Giles has something better to do, is it's been going for 7, nearly 8 years, I think, and it keeps getting new generations in. It's a really popular thing for students to go and do, and they're discovering it on Netflix. So it's a show that's obviously aging quite well. It did get, unlike a lot of the shows we've talked about, it did get 9 series. I think there's 3 or 4 of the series that wrote the last episode with like a bit of a cliffhanger, so they had to go on, but others, they'd written the final episode, that's going to be it, and the audience just kept wanting more. I think they've ended it really well. I think it stayed consistently brilliant. And David Mitchell, you know, he plays himself. You know, he moans. He's into politics. He can be all awkward, but also I think he acts brilliantly. I think his character, you know, starts quite an optimistic sort of person. You know, he's like the way he butters his toast. Says he has brown for main course, white for pudding, you know. Whereas by the end of it, by series 9, he's buttering his toast. He's like, butter the toast, eat the toast, shit the toast. Life is relentless. So, you know, there's character development. It's in a show where you've got characters, you know, like Super Hans, Jeff Johnson, Patterson Joseph just turned up in the Wonka film. And Big Mad Andy, who's become like the cult character because he's spread over a few different series. And of course, Sophie, played by the great Olivia Colman, who's another one who, funnily enough, has better things to do than come and host a quiz in front of 100 people. But, you know, she's got our Twitter if she wants it.
Oscar-winning
Olivia Colman. There we go. And so she is his sort of opposite number. They've done other things. You know, if you've seen the Mitchell and Webb look, the sketch shows they did when they met at uni, they're fab. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much I can say about this show. Just love it to bits. Can't say enough. And I can't say enough good things for David Mitchell and Mark Corrigan. He is just this man who is no matter whether he's happy, sad, angry, horny, everything, every line is just amazing. And one thing Peep Show does, that's quite unique is, well, the point of view cinematography.
Yeah.
But also the internal monologues. And that's, I think, what makes it so relatable and so engaging, that the things they're saying in their head, they'll be the things that you relate to. And you think, oh, it's okay to think this, but I won't say it out loud because they're not saying it out loud. And yeah, probably for the best.
Yeah, I must admit, I enjoyed watching it. The weird thing was I didn't realize, because I think the whole point of the first couple of seasons, if you like, is Will, Mark, and Sophie get together, and then it feels like they're going to get together, and then they do kind of get together, and then they sort of end up hating each other. And I was kind of heartbroken when it got to that part of whichever series that is, because you kind of think, oh my God, I wanted them to be together. And it wasn't just the fact that he was a bit of a dickhead, but like she was a real knobhead as well,
Yeah, that was to be the climax. So series 4 was one of the ones where I think that was going to be the end of it. They finished it with the wedding, but yeah, they made series 3 basically all about how the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
And then they finally get together just as he's typically just as he's realised that actually. Just because I think the idea of it was, just because someone finally fancies you doesn't mean that they like have to be the one. And but she was so integral to the series. And in series 9, I mean, she does make a comeback. And I think when they were writing, they were like, we can't finish this show without bringing her back, because she was so. I mean, in fact, like fun fact, when they first wrote it, she had an internal monologue as well. So there was going to be 3 of them, all where you hear their thoughts. So I think that's just how serious they take her as a show. And she can take her Oscar. She can, have all the other shows. To a certain generation, she's Sophie, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely. Okay, my number 2, I'm going for someone that is, I think, the typical British classic comedy character. He's flawed. He's a bit of an anti-hero, if you like, but I'm going for Basil Fawlty as my number 2. I mean, again, it's the same as like David Brent or any of the Ricky Gervais characters. 2 series, so he hasn't overplayed. Those 12 episodes are now all just classic episodes, and Basil Fawlty then stands. It's a bit when these musicians or rock stars die when they're like 24 or 27. They're immortalized in that image, so they can't do any wrong anymore. Whereas you could get someone like Paul McCartney, who's now 82 and can't really sing, and it's kind of tainting.
Still going.
Yeah, and it's kind of tainting his legend a little bit, because you think, oh God, it just doesn't sound like the old guy. So if there had been 10 series of Fawlty Towers, you'd have gone, oh God, this is just getting boring now. So when it's just 2 series, and as a character, he loves being a snob to his like rich guests, but when it's like people that he doesn't want to deal with, he's very rude, but always hilarious. And some of the funniest scenes with the Germans and the walk and all that kind of stuff, for me, he had to be. It was very close. Him and my number 1 and number 2 were interchangeable, to be fair.
Yeah, well, he is another one, like you mentioned, where thinking about quintessential funny British characters, he's always in there. I mean, I figure out at some point you could do a top 10 John Cleese roles, as he's made.
Yeah.
Like but like you say, he left that perfect. He's carried on being someone where you think, okay, I mean, all the way up for my generation, like you go as far as something like he turns up as Q in the
That's right, in the
later
Bond
not
movies.
so good Bond films. He's the voice of Prince Harold in Shrek 2. It doesn't matter what he does, he really does,
That's right.
Not turn shit into gold. We'll maybe die another day, different podcast. But he is, British comedy icon. Hit the nail on the head. And again, two series. You don't want to take them to really out of that hotel, I suppose. Don't want to take you out of your comfort zone.
It was worrying last year, because they were saying, I don't know if it's still happening, but there's going to be another series with an old written by his daughter, apparently. And the way that they described it, it just sounded like Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's just all it sounded like. This old guy not getting in terms with modern world and and I just hope that it isn't going to happen, because again, it's like the 82 McCartney again. You think, oh God, is it really going to work? I don't know how old John Cleese is. He's got to be around that sort of age anyway.
He's 80s, isn't he? Yeah.
Got to be, yeah. So it just ended up being a bit like, I think, a sadder version of Curb Your Enthusiasm, where I think Larry David's already done that. So just, leave it alone.
Yeah, don't need that. If it happens, just ignore it.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing. Yeah, I think that's the best thing. Okay, before we reveal our number ones then, Doug, give us your countdown from 10 to 2. I'll do the same, and then we'll say what's at the top of our numbers.
Oh, see, I didn't write it down because I made it up as I was going. I'm joking. Could have done. So number 10, I had Oliver Tate from Submarine. Number 9, I had Gilderoy Lockhart, Order of Mill. I won't do that again. Number 8, Mr. Phil Gilbert. No, number 8, Phil Gilbert. 7, Vod from Fresh Meat. 6, Alice, Vicar of Dibley. 5, Carrie from This Country. 4, Mr. Bean from Mr. Bean. 3, Uncle Bryn from Gavin Stacey. 2, Mark Corrigan. And no, I don't do that bit yet.
Oh no, don't do that bit yet.
I was waiting. I'm not going to do it. I nearly said it, but no.
Just hold your horses. Mine is number 10, David Brent. Number 9, Father Dougal Maguire. Number 8, Frank Spencer. 7, Alan Partridge. 6, Chris Morris from The Day Today. 5, Edmund Blackadder. 4, Douglas Renholm. 3, Rick from The Young Ones. And 2, Basil Fawlty. So, Doug, what is your number 1 British comedy character?
Right. Well, I tried to keep quiet about this because it is one you said earlier. But I was enjoying what you were saying so much and wanted to get stuck into the conversation. But there's more to say. It is actually Alan Partridge.
Alan Partridge. Well, we got one the same. That's okay then.
Yeah. I mean, I said 3, you said 5. So how about you just give me an extra point on the quiz and we call it quits? Right?
Okay, I'll do that. I don't mind. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yes. I mean, into I've seen this time. I really liked series 1. Series 2, I was like, maybe I'm trying to find this funny more than I should be. Maybe I'm almost like putting much more effort in. But everything up to then is fab. I mean, the times I had listening to Mid Morning Matters in the car, as well as watching the show, just every single bit is genius. And I've really just found it hard to forget that the people that he was speaking to are actors themselves.
Yes.
The girl doing the playing Rosie Witter, the wine taster. She's been in I think she's played another role in the show, and she's been in other bits and bobs. Nigel Lindsay, who plays the armed forces guy, he's got other roles just in Partridge.
Yeah, he was in Four Lions.
And he was. God, yeah. Shut up, Barry. Him. And he's also in Papa, which I think is a really, really well-made comedy film. It's not the best comedy ever, but
no, I think that's underrated. I do think that's underrated.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, I think it's almost one of a kind, because it's another case of, a bit like a Cinema Mr. Bean, like to go from something really digestible like Mid Morning Matters, or indeed I'm Alan Partridge, to make a whole film that really works with a narrative, has a plot. It's got the whole heist theme going on beautifully. And to keep being like the centerpiece of that and being so funny is great. And there's so many really subtle jokes. It's not in your face humor all the time. Sometimes it's really subtle things that he says, where if you're not quite engaged in the rest of the dialogue, you can like get a little bit lost. But then you watch it again, I'm like, why have I not spotted that before? Why haven't I been obsessed with how funny that is? So yeah, just I think consistency, for TV, radio, and the indeed feature film and talk show. He's just sort of done it all. So he clinched number 1. But I mean, I think everyone from my top 5 down was in the frame for number 1 at some point.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the way I look at it as well. My top 5, definitely my top 3, are all interchangeable. But yeah, so we got one the same. My number 1 started off on a TV show, and a bit like Alan Partridge, and then ended up having 2 movies, and it's Borat. So Sacha Baron Cohen.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
brilliant.
I think the whole Sacha Baron Cohen thing, I mean, is brave. Is especially people, things like Borat. I've watched that first movie so many times, and even now I still wonder how he got away with some of the stuff that he did in that. And even the second movie, it was amazing that he still managed to get people that didn't know who he was, and to be able to get them to play, not necessarily play along, but get fooled with the stuff that he was doing.
Well, and have you seen Grimsby as well?
I've seen Grimsby. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, when it's more of a narrative thing, it feels like what he tries to do is he tries to do as shocking as possible, because he hasn't got that. He hasn't got that the thing with Borat or with sometimes with Ali G stuff, or even what was the name of the Bruno.
Yeah.
I mean, that where he's being, some of the stuff on that was just absolutely shocking. But the shocking bit is the way that he gets people to open up, a little bit like Chris Morris as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're getting people to open up and show their prejudices and their stupidity because they think he's just this stupid person from Kazakhstan. And it's a perfect way of doing it, but you've got to have balls. And he should be number one just for that scene where he's fighting naked with his manager and running through this business convention onto the stage where the bits are just flying everywhere. And it's just crazy that you think that would go on. But I know the scene, obviously it's painful, but it's insanely funny. And the shock of everything that he sort of, and no matter what he does, I think the only tame thing I've ever seen him do was probably when he was Thénardier in Les Mis, when he was like seen again. But even then, I was like, oh god, you're still a bit Borat-y here. Even though you're in like a serious film. Admittedly, him and Helena Bonham Carter was sort of the comic relief in that film. But yeah, here you are in a serious, heart-wrenching musical, and I can still see a bit of your Borat in there. Just like, stunning actor. I to be fair, I thought about Sacha Baron Cohen. I never thought about Borat. That's an amazing choice, man. Oh, there you go. Look, we could have had two the same, but there you go. It doesn't matter. Okay, honourable mentions. We've got a few here. So Janine Bender said Hyacinth Bouquet and Basil Fawlty. Karine Pastor said Basil Fawlty and Jeff Murdoch from Coupling. Nancy Bush said Patsy and Adina. I also love Miranda Hart. And for the classic comedy Monty Python. Jennifer Lowe Fanoof, I hope I'm getting your name right there. Rowan Atkinson's Blackadder every season, but damn, every single actor in the League of Gentlemen is right up there too. And Dylan Moran as Bernard Black in Black Books. Eddie J. Miller said Mr. Humphreys from Are You Being Served? Oh dear, there's one from the past. At Andy McEwen 1 says any character played by Rick Mayall, so that could be Rick, Richard, Flashheart, all classics. At Just This One Me said 2, Lance and Andy from the Beautiful Detectorists. Oh dear. Karen Clark said Baldrick. Sean Robbins said I might be biased, but my preferences are Mark and Jeremy from Peep Show. Jen Berg, Jen Berg, Basil Fawlty, Alan Partridge, obviously, but also Tim, Daisy, Mike, Marsha, Brian, and Twist. So that's from Spaced. I forgot Clem Fandango. Can you hear me, Stephen? Gary Lizasso says it's got to be Maurice Moss. Brian Toe said Alan Partridge. Also, Matt Berry, not particularly any role, just Matt Berry the man. You can't tell me he's not a British comedy character. Yes, he is. God, my voice is going. Thank God we're at the end. So anyway, that's it. Yeah. We've done it.
Wow.
Epic.
Black Books, yeah. We said John Cleese.
We did.
We're just so blessed with such a rich list, aren't we?
I think we've done well, and considering we've done that and we've had one the same.
Yeah.
After all of that, so that's I think that's pretty good going. So again, do you want to tell everybody about your what you got going on? I can whack that into the show notes.
Yeah. I mean, just briefly, the Gavin and Stacey. The problem with running a quiz project on that is what really attracts people to the Peep Show project is we've actually had cast members come and do it. We've had Neil Fitzmaurice, who's fantastic, plays Jeff. But we had Alan Johnson 5 years ago nearly, came and did one, and he did Tai Chi on stage. It was amazing. Paul Clayton, who, if you've seen him and her as well, he's in that. We've had a handful, had a few people do it on Zoom during lockdown. We can't seem to do it with Gavin and Stacey because they all got too sodding famous after that show.
Yeah.
James Corden's still in a job, so we move. But regardless of who the host is, there's a couple of us doing it, and we're just gonna look to put on a sort of big fan service night. We watch a bit of the show together and do questions on that. And it's just always good fun. So London, Wales, and Sheffield definitely. The Peep Show on Dobby Club, who Giles runs, they're on tour right now. I forget where, but they've got things coming up. So at Dobby Club, and then on Facebook, the Bryn one is Uncle Bryn's Cracking Meme Page. It's quite a long, clunky name, but it's what we ran with when we were just doing it, just to dick around.
Yeah.
And didn't expect it to do well. So you got to stick with your name.
Absolutely. Well, the links...
anyone's into either of those two shows, and I wasn't going to reveal this till the end, but and I can't confirm exactly who, but we do have a third project in the works with a live quiz hosted by someone from this country.
Oh.
But we don't have a this country page to promote it on, so we're gonna have to play that one very, very carefully. But if you follow Dobby Club or Brinstagram, which is what we're called on Instagram, then we will make a song and dance about it on those pages, even though it is technically the wrong show. So there we go.
Well, we'll put the links in the show notes for everybody anyway. Doug, thank you once again for joining us. Thank you once again for your support as well.
Pleasure.
It means the absolute world to us, as you know. And anybody else, if they want to be like Doug and come and join us for a podcast, come and join our Patreon. It's patreon.com/top10pods. All the other information be in the show notes, as well as the links for all of Doug's bits and pieces that he's working on. Once again, Doug, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, mate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Mate, so much fun. Despite the quiz score, I am going to keep supporting the pod because it's fantastic, and it's what we need. Oh no, love it to bits. Yeah. Hopefully I'll see you again and do some actual revision for whatever topic we choose next. I think I need to. Jesus.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, mate. Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much again, Doug. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching and listening. Now let's go start the countdown.